Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to MUFC versus everybody. Just getting a few things squared away here this morning. Sorry for popping up a little late. Just a little bit of a late morning, and then just wanted to make sure I got my dogs out for a walk before I got a little busier later. It's a bit cold today. We had some frost overnight. I mean, it's almost May, and Michigan. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Michigan, but one of our slogans is, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. I mean, it's one of the only states where you're going to run your furnace and your AC in the same day, I feel like sometimes. So by this afternoon, it'll probably be warmer. So it is what it is. I don't mind the chill. It's just it's a little cold, but that's all right. Obviously, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're here to do 3 thoughts as United beat Sheffield United at home. Oops. Let me just change I don't think I can change the mic yet, so that's all right. Wanted to make sure we had the right mic settings, but that's cool. I think you guys can all hear me. Let me know if you can't. But anyway, obviously United beat Sheffield United at home yesterday 4-2. We have 3 thoughts on that today, and then following that we'll do our actually we'll do the roundup first, and then we'll jump on 3 thoughts. How's that sound? Before we do get started, though, don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'm not going to forget to take a cup of coffee here. So good. And then go check us out at MUFC versus everybody on Twitter. And then if you're still in the mood, don't forget to laugh out loud at Liverpool, as is our motto. So let's dive right in. First things first, let's all wish Raphael Varane a happy birthday. I think he's, 31 today? I think if he had one birthday wish, he'd wish for you to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. I know I would if I cared about my birthday. So happy birthday, Varane. It'll be interesting to see if he will be here next year to celebrate another birthday or not. I think the fan base is pretty split on what we want to see with Varane, but when he's played, he's done well. It's just that he's not available. So in any case, happy birthday. Enjoy your day. And thanks for giving your all. Also, big up and congratulations to United's women's U21s team. They did win their league yesterday as well. So it's been a bit of a tremendous season for a few of our teams. Obviously, men's first teams in the FA Cup final, women's first teams in the FA Cup final. United's U18s did their double, and now we have the women's under-21s who won their league. A lot of trophies going around at United. I wish the first team would do a little bit more, but we can try, hopefully in the next month. We might have a new look United in store if some of recent reports are to be believed. There were some stories making the round yesterday that Ten Hag was advised by Wilcox to start playing this new possession-based United style. So United Muppeteers is reporting that this possession-based style is the new way that Sir Jim, Ineos, Wilcox, and whoever want us to start playing. And apparently that was passed down from Jason Wilcox. It's going to be interesting. I don't know how much stock I put in these reports, simply because I find it hard to believe that Wilcox, who his first appearance was sitting, in the stands, and obviously he started this audit apparently, according to reports. But I find it hard to believe that he's going to come in and right away just be like, no, you're playing this way. Obviously, we saw a little bit of possession football yesterday, and we know that's kind of how Ten Hag likes to play in general. Some of that was down to the way Sheffield United set themselves up. Obviously, we had almost 75% possession, 3 times as many completed passes as they did, and a lot of it was in their half. So they were just kind of hoping to soak up pressure and hit us on the break a lot. So that's going to normal. So don't let that skew kind of the impression. But it's obvious Ten Hag wants to play that more careful possession style. A lot of Dutch managers do, but it does require good technical, smart, players with a high level of football intelligence. And so we'll see if that is what's going to happen moving forward. I think with a couple more technical players, we could really see it make some strides. And even the players we do have, like Bruno yesterday, looked a little bit more controlled and calm on the ball. So they've shown that they can physically do it. It's just a matter of mentally if they can keep that composure and that control. We have a little bit of stat-related news. It's kind of fun. So I don't know if you guys follow Statman Dave. He's obviously a big stat nerd, in the good way. Nothing wrong with being a nerd about things. Definitely nothing wrong. But he did say on Twitter after the match that Harry Maguire's goal against Sheffield United, which was his second in 2 matches, right, now means he's got more non-penalty goals in April than Holland, Saka, Nunez, Salah, and Grealish. So that's a bit of fun news to kind of flaunt for a little while until those guys get back to scoring ways. Holland's injured right now, isn't he? Yeah. So who knows? Maguire could end April as a top scorer on that list. Who knows? Moving on, we've got a possible player sale in store. So David McDonald, or Disco Mirror on Twitter, he's a Manchester football correspondent with the Daily Mirror. He's reporting, and he's a decent source, right? He's reporting that United are ready to cut their losses on Antony this summer. We've spoken about this before. We know that Omar Barada has this kind of 2-year rule when it comes to players. You come in and you have 2 years to kind of prove and show something, right? I think we can all agree Antony hasn't shown enough in 2 years to kind of pass that litmus test. And we are going to have to cut our losses on a lot of players. It's just the way it is. And that's not on Ten Hag. That's not on Ineos or anything. That's just on our poor negotiations prior to all these things being in place. Again, Ten Hag didn't tell our negotiators, he didn't tell those guys to go get Antony for 85 million. He told them to go get him in June when he was like 35 million. And then we drug our feet and it ended up costing more than twice as much. That's not on Ten Hag. His choices in August at that point were start over again, find a new target, don't get a target, and obviously get Antony for 85 million. And so what is he supposed to do? It's the people who negotiate who have to hold their hands up in that situation and say, yep, that's on us. But the problem is, and then it costs us extra and we miss out on other players. So to be fair to Antony, he has been better recently. I didn't think he was awful yesterday. I know a lot of people were going in on him yesterday. Obviously, he didn't do much against Coventry. I thought he looked good against Chelsea. And I didn't think he looked good yesterday as well. But better in this case is just less bad. It's not necessarily good. So he's starting. This is your baseline. He's starting way down here. He's been like up here a little bit. He's still got a long way to go. And I don't know if he's cut out for the league, the physicality. I'm not saying he's got to be big and strong, but he doesn't look like he's quite that fast. And for a winger, that is important. And he, as we saw against Coventry, his mentality sometimes can be a bit of an issue. There's a little bit of an immaturity there. And so maybe he's just not cut out for this league. Maybe there's an opportunity for him to go elsewhere. Maybe Italy, maybe Germany, maybe France, somewhere, and do a job. So we'll see what we have in store for him. Obviously, we're not going to make any money back, but he is on over 200,000 a week compared to what he was on 20-something thousand at Ajax. And so it's a good chunk of change to get off the wages, and that will help us out. We also have some financial related / preseason news. So we know United are skint going into the summer. Obviously, we have a lot of FFP related stuff, and then obviously because of lack of player sales and overpaying, the budget's not quite there. So match day revenue, though, is a lot of money for clubs, which is why many clubs suffered during COVID, that lockdown when there weren't any fans in the stands. And this is also that also contributed to some relaxed rules regarding FFP following lockdown, because the league understood, like, you're missing out on a big chunk of change. We get it. So in an effort to generate some more revenue this summer, Footy Insider 24/7 is reporting that United are looking at extending our summer tour in the US. Now, I know you're probably like, oh, Sean, you're based in America. You probably like that. I don't. Just because I'm based in America doesn't mean I fly halfway across the country to go see United when they show up. It's preseason. To me, it's right up there with international friendlies. Obviously, it's good for the club, right? They get the monies. It's good for a lot of Americans. This might be the only chance they get to go see United play. I cringe every international friendly that United players, and I cringe at preseason tours because, like, we saw Kabi Manu go down injured in preseason. Arsenal lost Urian Timber for the entire season in preseason. Like, it's friendlies, in my opinion, are just I don't like them at all. And the tour obviously it can be draining. I know that Louis Van Gaal was not too thrilled with the extensive summer tour that they went on. Although United did come here to play Madrid about 20 minutes from me that summer, so that was kind of cool. And then I know that Ten Hag probably won't like it either, but it is what it is. According to these reports, it is believed that the senior figures at United want to generate at least a further £20 million from the preseason tour. So extending the tour by a couple matches would probably help them, but it's a drain on the players, especially in the few years recently where more managers and more players are complaining about too much football and how much strain it's putting on everybody and all the injuries that we've seen this year. I think that the last thing you want to do is add more matches, player schedules, but that's just me. So Ten Hag did give us a little bit of team news ahead of this Burnley match on the weekend. So in his post-match presser yesterday, Ten Hag was asked whether any defenders were due to return for the weekend for Saturday's match. So obviously Casemiro's been filling in as kind of a makeshift center back, which wasn't a bad thing. I don't think he's done horribly. I think that the way that we try to play out from the back again is what causes us problems. But we'll touch on that a little bit more later. But in response to this, Ten Hag said, no, not yet. We have to be patient for it. For coming back for the game against Burnley, I don't expect them, Mason Mount, he's referring to, he said he might return, but we will see. I don't think, so Ten Hag's basically saying, we're probably not going to have any fit defenders back. So no Cambuala, no Evans, no Varane, no Lindelof. It's probably going to be the same defense. Mason Mount might be back, so it looks like his injury isn't a bad one, which is good, right? I think we were all a little worried, like, what did we buy? This guy's a crock. He's just always injured. And it's just one of those things. We've just got some really random outlier injuries this season to a lot of our players who honestly weren't all that injury prone before they got here. Malacia, Licha, and now Mount. Mount didn't pick up that many injuries at Chelsea, despite what people might have you think. So, in any case, team news ahead of the weekend, probably the same defensive partnership we've seen these last few matches, which could go either way, but we'll see. So that's the roundup. I know some people were asking me my thoughts on Nottingham Forest and that whole situation. I don't have too many thoughts on it, if I'm honest. I don't follow Forest all that closely. I see what I see and kind of the basic thing. I know they were talking a little bit about it on the overlap and how it is a bit embarrassing for a club to take to social media to air their grievances against PGMOL or whoever, which to that point I agree. It is what it is. I'm not gonna pretend I know a whole lot about it. It just seems a bit tin pot to take to social media to complain about refereeing decisions. As a club, we can do it as fans. We're fans, and that is what it is. But when people like Klopp, who loves to blame Paul Tierney or blame the 12:30 kickoff, as Liverpool are wont to do, we saw Virgil van Dijk do that. Those kind of things are just like, come on. But it is what it is. If that's what you want to complain about, that's what you want to complain about. But we move on. Let's talk about my 3 thoughts on the match. Honestly, not a whole lot to comment on when it came to our match against Sheffield United. But some of it I've already kind of discussed in brief in my initial reaction, but we'll flesh it out a little bit more today. So my number 1 would be, we don't learn from our mistakes. Talked about it a little bit yesterday, and this has to do with players, has to do with Ten Hag as well, whether it's being clinical in the opposition third or being the way we play out from the back or how open we are in midfield. We just don't learn from it. Either we're not training for it to remedy those mistakes, or in the moment we're stuck in our ways, and out of habit, it's just harder to kind of change, because it is hard to change a habit. It is hard to change patterns and thought processes and just kind of muscle memory in some regard. It's hard to train out of that, but you have to try. And sometimes that will mean messing up. Because you're rebuilding new habits here. But again, trying to walk the ball out of defense when we don't have the players for it is what cost us our first goal. Yes, people will point at Onana. Yeah, and he played a part in that by playing that stupid pass. But the reason that the ball even got to him in the first place when there were Sheffield United players that far is because we sat there in our corner with Casemiro, Wan-Bissaka, and Eriksen trying to play these risky little triangles that were just getting more and more sloppy with each touch. And when the opportunity was there to either hoof it forward or play it back to Onana earlier, and we waited and waited and waited and caused ourselves to come under way more pressure than is necessary, having to put it back to Onana by the time Sheffield United had already moved up. And so it's those kind of things. I've said it time and time again. Ten Hag needs to understand that it's needs must right now between injuries and the business end of the season. We need to just clear the danger, regroup, set ourselves up, and try to win it high up the pitch again instead of trying to walk it out from the back. It doesn't work, and it's cost us time and time again. And then again, simple mistakes. In this one, I'm going to put more on the players is those simple cutback goals. You know, how many our players are just caught ball watching when that simple ball goes back into the area for Brereton Diaz, I think it was, to lash it in. I mean, you can't blame Onana for that. The only thing you can maybe say Onana could do in that situation, this isn't even pointing anything on Onana, but the only thing maybe he could do is vocalize, like, guys, mark him. He's right there. Watch the cutback. Watch the cutback. Those kind of things. The players, I mean, and this is what we kind of spoke about against Coventry. Like, how much of that is on Ten Hag to make sure he's doing? How much management is needed to tell professionals in their late 20s, internationals, Champions League winners, to watch for a simple cutback? You know, conceding goals like that has been a big part of why we're no longer, we went out of Champions League. It's been a big part of why we dropped points. We saw it against Brentford last month. Like, simple goals. That's day one defending. And, like, again, kind of like Coventry, up 3-0, going in the 70th minute, making subs. Why should Ten Hag have to, like, how much management should he have to do in that situation? How much management is needed to tell these players to watch out for those cutbacks? We're also too open in midfield. We saw it again yesterday. Sheffield United can just a couple passes and our midfield is completely bypassed. Even if there's a body in there, the body is isolated, and Sheffield had enough players to kind of just pass around. And it only took 1 or 2 passes for them to get from their half into our third, our box, our area. And it's too sloppy. Obviously, there's not much we can do when we have to take our only defensive midfielder, play him at center back, and we're starting midfield of Manu, Eriksen, and Bruno. There's not much physicality in that midfield. You could argue Manu, but comparing Manu's physicality to Eriksen and Bruno it's a bit unfair. Because they're creative attacking midfielders. They're not defensive midfielders. And Manu is a kid, and he's not that big. You know, he may get stuck in, but he's not going to muscle. And obviously, there's only so much one midfielder can do when they're getting passed around in midfield. So we definitely need some bodies in midfield. I've spoken a little bit about my defensive midfield targets in another video. Go check that out if you haven't yet done so. But someone like who can read the game, someone who's a general in midfield, like a Mats Wieper at Feyenoord, would be ideal for that situation. Someone who can organize and just read that danger to put himself in a good position to break up play. And if you look at his numbers, Wieper does a great job. So, and he wouldn't be expensive. And then, just conceding those kind of sloppy goals overall is just something we don't seem to learn from. And we haven't all season, and that's a problem. And I'll put that on Ten Hag too in training. Like, how are we setting up to defend those situations that we constantly find ourselves in, whether it's set pieces or these cutback goals or this midfield or against the counter? Like, if you're stuck playing defenders you don't want to play, drop your line back like 5-10 yards even, just to better compensate for a counterattack, so you're not having to make up that ground with someone like Harry Maguire. It seems very simple on its surface, right? But that's what I'm talking about. Ten Hag just doesn't. Either he's stubborn or he just doesn't see it. I find it hard to believe he doesn't see it. He's a Champions League caliber manager. Maybe it's just stubborn, and he's just hoping that the attacking aspect of his system is going to work so well that he doesn't have to work. Like, oh, if this shouldn't be a problem because this will work if it's done right. Well, the if is the operant word in that. In any regard, in his post-match comments, Ten Hag said it was unacceptable conceding the sloppy goals, and I agree. But he has a role in that. I've mentioned in the past, I wrote that piece for StreadyNews.com a long time ago, I mentioned a lack of resilience in this squad, and it holds true. We saw how easily we fell apart when we conceded against yesterday because of that lack of resilience. But Ted Hogg did point out, and I gave it credit yesterday as well, coming back the way we did against Liverpool, against Coventry, and now against Sheffield United. Now everyone's going to sit there and say, oh, it's Coventry, oh, it's Sheffield United. It doesn't matter. It matters is the fact that we're doing it. It's that repetition. It's that almost like that fake it till you make it kind of thing. Yeah. Who cares if it's a one-off game against a championship side or bottom of the league, Sheffield United? Showing that we can do it, it's going to build a foundation mentally and physically, and that's important. And so saw it, and we're seeing it and this is an important part of the season to start showing that in. And so it's good to see, but we have to cut out the mistakes. And that was my big issue, is we don't learn. Number 2, Bruno is a difference maker. He's leading by example right now. He's got 7 goals and 2 assists in his last 5 games. I'm going to take a sip. So good. Which brings his total since joining United to 54 goals and 40 assists in the league. Only Mohamed Salah is ahead of him since he's joined the league. That's insane. And he's a leader. Now, I know I've criticized, and a lot of people criticize for his attitude sometimes, the way he whines, the way he has a go at the refs all the time, and I get that. But he is a leader in these moments. We've seen him give penalties to other players who need a goal. We saw him work hard to kind of get these youngsters involved. Even Ethan Wheatley, who came on as a sub and looked lively, said after the match that Bruno, that during the match, Bruno pulled him aside when he came on and said, I've got 9 minutes to get you a goal. And you could kind of tell Bruno was really trying to get Wheatley on the score sheet. Bruno created 9 chances against Sheffield, which puts him at the top of the league now for 99 chances created in the league. That's like 8 more than the next person on the list, who I want to say maybe that's Kevin De Bruyne. Those 9 chances he created yesterday is also the most in a single match this season. So he was up for it. He was on fire yesterday. He was a force. And that also brings his chances created in all competitions to 140, which is the most of any player in Europe's top 5 leagues. So it's almost criminal that Bruno doesn't have more trophies, the numbers he puts out. I blame a lot of that to the fact that we've just had so much managerial change, and we don't have players like to get on the end of that stuff that he's creating. So he's had to do a lot of it himself. But he needs, looking at his numbers, you'd be like, this guy is class. I'm not saying he's world class, because a lot of people start getting angry when you throw out words like world class. But Bruno, he's class. But I think if he wanted to be considered up there in world class, he would need to have more trophies. And he's 29 now. I don't know how many more opportunities he's going to get major trophies. Probably got another 2, 3, 4 years at like a Premier League level. So we need to get some trophies, and he needs to get trophies. So I know I've criticized him, as many have, and justifiably so. But when he can control himself, when he can calm down, when he can focus and hone that passion towards something and kind of control it, like we saw a lot yesterday, he can do amazing things for us. Like I said, he is a difference maker, and the numbers speak for themselves. I think, and I was watching the overlap this morning, and Ian Wright kind of put it perfectly. He said, if Man United are going to be saved in a game, it's probably Bruno who's going to do it. And it's true. He can do it. He can be the difference maker. And I know that the critics of Moments FC kind of thing will go in on that. And I have an issue, right, relying on moments because I don't like it. But at the same time, saying someone can produce something in a moment is not the same as saying we are only Moments FC. There's a big difference, So, like, you wouldn't call Real Madrid Moments FC, but you would say Luka Modric can deliver in a moment. And we've seen that in Champions League and League over the last several years. I mean, some of those balls he played a couple years ago in Champions League against like City and Chelsea were a thing of beauty. Some of those Trivela passes that nobody else can do. he can do that. So difference between Moments FC and having players who can produce in moments. But Bruno is definitely that difference maker, and we need to really try to get the best out of him and take advantage of what he can do for us in these next few seasons. I'm not saying build the squad around him. I'm saying we need to get our attackers kind of aware of what he's doing, get them on the same page. And we saw that a lot yesterday. He was really trying. So number 3, the future looks bright for United. Our young players have been looking great. Obviously, a lot of them look knackered. Garnacho looked knackered. Manu is, his first professional season. He's done well, but he's looking a little leggy. And Højlund obviously has been kind of up and down in terms of goals. He's been in and out with injuries, but he did get his goal yesterday with some good movement. He looked really lively in the box, trying to get involved. Give him the ball, and he'll score you goals. That's clear to see. It's just a matter of getting him the ball, and you can see that he can read the situation, and he's got a lot of good movement in the area to put himself in good positions. It's just our wingers are not quite used to that, so we need to get everyone on the same page. And obviously, we saw Ethan Wheatley come on, and he does represent that faith, that foundation, that DNA that United have when it comes to youth. I said it yesterday. He is the 250th Academy graduate to play for United. That is immense record. I know everyone goes on about our youth record, the motto youth, courage, success, but to see it like that in numbers, 250th Academy grad, that is such a stellar tradition. And again, that record, we haven't had a match day squad without an Academy grad in it since 1937, I want to say. So I don't know the records of other clubs when it comes to that, but to think about that for a second, there has been an Academy graduate in our match day squad every match since 1937. That's insane. Like, that's such a good record. And again, I'm not a fan of forcing the youth just for the youth's sake, because I do think a lot of the youth that have come through have just not been good enough. And that's not me bashing anybody. It's just a fact. And I think we can all agree. But to produce enough youth who are good enough for United's first team over that many years that's good. I like the way our academy looks right now. We have a lot of really good young players coming through, a lot of buzz, a lot of promise, from some we haven't even seen yet. Obviously we've already seen guys like Campwala, Garnacho, Manu come through the academy and produce and win things. But we've still got guys like Shea Lacey and Harry Amas who are coming through, who they do look good, and there is a lot of promise there. And obviously Wheatley now. And so we have a good generation of youngsters coming through. I'm not going on the bandwagon of saying, we've got this new class of 92. I think that was one of the most outlier anomalies you're ever going to see in football, but I do like what I see from a lot of our youngsters. I do think there's an opportunity there. If our club is worried about money, I think there's an opportunity to look more at the youngsters over the next few years and really plan for the future as we look to build the squad. And obviously, we're targeting a lot of young players. We just talked about, what's his name, Nypan yesterday, that Norwegian, plays for Rosenborg. He's like 16, 17. Pafundi, who's at Lausanne right now, that we're also looking at. We're looking at a lot of young talent who we can bring in, similar like we did Nacho, because Garnacho's we didn't sign him as like an 8, 9-year-old. He came from Atletico's academy. A lot of players like that. We can come in, get him in the academy, get them kind of ingrained in the way we're trying to play, because we know that Ten Hag has been working really closely with the academy to build that culture and that philosophy similar to like what they do at Ajax. Get them in there for a couple of years, get them producing, see who kind of excels and stands out, and then integrate them into the first team like we've been doing. And that's what we want. And so I like that. I like what I see. I know you guys do as well. And again, the future looks bright. And Wheatley didn't get his goal. We tried. He looked almost like grabbing that lucky one with that deflection, but he did look lively. He did get stuck in, and he looks up for it. And he's tall. He's like a big dude for a young player, right? He's really tall, physical. He's fast. So I like that. Future looks bright. So that is going to do it for us today. Like I said, 3 thoughts, not a whole lot to take away. It was kind of a throwaway game. Yeah, you can criticize, going down twice. It is what it is. Even the best United sides have done that against opposition you'd expect them to beat. I'm not kind of deflecting like it's not a big deal. Obviously, it's a big deal, but if we're going to complain every single time we concede a goal, given where we are right now and what we've seen on the pitch and everything, I don't think it's just wallowing in that negativity, which we got to balance it out. Like I said, there are positives to take away, and I did kind of criticize us today for some of our repeated sloppy mistakes. So I don't turn a blind eye to them. I just going down conceding a goal to me is not as big a deal as repeatedly making the same mistakes. So you might disagree, you might agree. Let me know on your thoughts. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check us out, MUFC versus everybody on Twitter. Don't forget to stop by tomorrow. We're going to be taking a look at our Burnley preview ahead of Saturday's match, and we'll go from there. Looking forward to trivia night tonight, by the way. The guy who hosts it is a massive Liverpool fan, so it will be nice to just walk in with a big smile and hear him cry a little bit like he did after their defeat to Atalanta the other week. So in any case, hope you guys have a good day, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Later.